Everyone that knows me, they know one thing: I hate rats.
No, I have made it clear I hate rats, and we are going to kill some rats.
When we started killing them in Borough Hall, some of the same folks that are criticizing us now called me a murderer because I was killing rats. Well, you know what? We're going to kill rats.
Now, people demonized me back then. If you look at all the stories, people are saying, why are you killing those poor little creatures?
We are drastically reducing the amount of time that garbage will remain on our curb.
And so today, we're making clear that rats don't run our city. New Yorkers do.
Have you had your own personal experiences with rats?
Yes, far too many. When I purchased my home, I had a real rat infestation. We removed and killed 79 rats when I purchased my house to do a renovation.
That's what we call a little bit of foreshadowing. New York Mayor Eric Adams, he's been declaring a war on these rats. We already know he hates him some rats. There's one small battle that he might be losing to them though, as the city is fining him. His own city that he runs is fining the mayor over a rodent infestation at his Brooklyn property. Well, this comes after he held multiple press conferences about rats. He's hiring a rat czar. He's gonna pay them 6 figures to eradicate these damn rats from the city. But back in 2019, watch this, because he was pointing out how he wants to implement all these rat traps throughout the city. He wants them all over the place. Watch him describe and exhibit how this particular rat trap works.
So this counter here lets you know how many you caught. And the rats are all contained in this device. This is the food that they eat, and the rats are contained in this device. Rats don't go to a place when they smell dead rats. So when you use the rat candy that the city uses, the rats, once the rat dies, the other rats won't go and eat that food. Because the rats are in here and it's concealed, they still climb up here because they follow the urine tract, they follow where the other rats go, and they think it's a safe environment. And by having them contained here, that is how we're able to make sure that we keep them in one place.
Keep them in one place. That was back in 2019. It's been a few years he's been working on this whole issue. Let's give you a quick recap of how that particular murderous device works, because as he pointed out, people are like, how dare you murder these poor creatures? There's more on that. You guys know I like layers. So this rat trap is called the ecomile. Involves enticing the rat to climb a 2 feet high device with food on top, like sunflower seeds. The device senses its presence, then opens a trap door to drop I assume the rat, into a tank filled with an alcohol-based solution in which it will eventually drown. Here's some quick steps that they point out from their website. When the rat approaches the machine, it's prompted to climb a ladder to get to the feed. Once it reaches it, it activates a lever that plunges the rodent into the tank filled with a greenish solution. The solution then renders the rat unconscious and then kills it. I think that means drowns it. The tank holds up to 80 rat carcasses, their bodies. So because I like to investigate these things to the fullest extent, you guys have seen this before. So be warned here, if you don't like dead bodies, there's dead bodies in this next video. So calm down, don't look if you don't wanna see it. This is the result. I only want to show you guys this because this was supposed to be all over the city. And maybe it works, but it looks like this.
Does stink.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on. Easy, y'all. Come on.
Charissa.
I'll just keep that shot.
All right, we got it. We got it.
Eric Adams also wanted that to end as quickly as it did as well. We're gonna get back to what his personal rat issue is first, but what's your personal rat issue with this, Miranda?
Yeah, so I've lived in New York, and I gotta say, I don't think anyone would be stopping and caring much. It's just another day in New York walking past whatever contraption that happens to be. There is a huge rat problem in New York, and Listen, I'm not a rat expert. I'm not entirely sure what the best way to get rid of them is. The garbage on the street, he's right, that probably is a draw for the rats. However, nothing in New York, from my experience, works properly, and all of the money seems to be funneled into very specific areas of New York that aren't helping with the rat infestation, the functioning of the MTA, and so they really do have a large problem on their hands, and so I can see why people are upset. I also think it's really funny that historical rat hater Mayor Eric Adams has his own rat infestation problem, despite being so proud about his rat hatred.
Let's look into how he's handling that rat infestation. Here's those details. This is the second part about this whole thing. After hosting a news conference to introduce his new first deputy mayor and chief of staff, Mr. Adams dialed into a city administrative court to contest the decision by a city health inspector to fine him $300 for allowing rodents to overrun a property he owns in Brooklyn. On May 10th, 3 o'clock, a health inspector issued a summons to Mr. Adams for violating the health code at the Lafayette Avenue property. In describing that violation, she wrote, active rat signs exist and that fresh rat droppings were observed near the meters and near the neighboring staircase at front right. The minimum penalty is at $300 and the maximum is double of that at $600. Again, he's the mayor of the city, bro. But he didn't just pay the fine, this happened. As a landlord, he asserted that he spent nearly $7,000 in March battling rats at the property and on Lafayette Avenue and Bedford-Stuyvesant, promising to email an invoice to prove it. He said that he had even deployed the infamous rat trap that we just saw. He once showcased as Brooklyn Borough president. I don't know how much is working. He spent $7K on it. I do believe that he actually cares about it, that he's not just ignoring it. But in this particular case, he kind of did, maybe because of other reasons. These details. Mr. Adams chose to fight City Hall in a manner not suggested for non-mayors. First, he failed to respond to the summons, and then he failed to appear at the hearing scheduled for that summons. The Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings, the tribunal that adjudicates these matters and is known as Oath, found Mr. Adams in violation of the summons by default. Now, during this whole thing, he sent his the deputy chief counsel attorney there to represent him because he couldn't show up. That guy showed up and he got them to vacate that first one and reschedule another summons, which then of course he didn't show up to again. And the same deputy there showed up to it himself to represent the mayor, but then not specifically represent him, but just to get through this entire process because the mayor is just too damn busy. But the one thing here that I want to ask you about, Miranda, is this last part. Because this office, this oath office that has to send out these summonses and fine people, it's the mayor who runs the city, right? Isn't there some kind of conflict? Let's find out. The office has no particular protocol when it comes to handling summonses issued to city hall officials, but described itself as a wholly independent entity, even though Mr. Adams in March appointed Asim Rehman as oath commissioner and its chief administrative law judge. The hearing officer who presided over the mayor's case has only limited civil service protection. I don't think he's coming after them for these types of things, but I think it at least leads people to wonder who oversees the mayor in these type of situations if he violates some of these codes.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously this is a smaller circumstance. No one's really going to massively go after him. No one's unbelievably upset that he had rat droppings in his establishment and that he has to pay I think it was a $330 fine that they settled on. But you're right, it does beg the larger question of, okay, well, what if you had done something much larger than failing to provide a rat-free environment? Who is in charge of keeping the checks and balances when it comes to the mayor if it just kind of runs itself in the circle and it circles back to the mayor and he's like, well, I'm gonna ignore that because I just don't want to deal with it because it's me. So I think it does beg a larger question.
I wonder what that question will be. Maybe it'll get to that point. Maybe pay the $330 and add another $7,000 and get rid of the rats. Or it's just really damn hard to get rid of rats. Maybe it's that too. Apologies to anyone who had to see those carcasses.